Hi, I'm Sahithya, student of IM Trichy, batch 2022. In this video, I'm going to talk about how government fuels consumption through various policies. The pandemic has wreaked havoc to the global economy and has disrupted the global supply chain as countries of the world struggle to tackle the spread of the virus. Lockdown imposed by governments to prevent the crisis from getting out of control caused a shutdown of economic activities. India's economy was already on a slowdown even before the COVID lockdown. Its GDP was decelerating for 8 quarters straight before the blow of the pandemic could even be felt. Liberalization, which led to the globalization of the countries of the world, gave rise to more interconnected and more interdependent economies with its cross-border trade of goods and services, flow of investments, people and resources. This interconnectedness and dependency gave rise to not only mutual symbiosis but destruction as well, as a collapse of one economy in the farthest corner of the world could impact the income of a family in the country on the other side. Consumer spending, the largest demand driver, has reduced significantly to record levels low. To fuel consumption, boost investments, and to increase employment while keeping the inflation rate at levels would require a carefully curated combination of monetary and fiscal policies. Policies that can boost demand, invite foreign direct investments by lowering the ease of doing business, in short, policies that thrust the economy forward. India's journey traces all the way from its emphasizing on protectionism policy to embracing liberalization and the tremor it felt during the global financial crisis to its cyclical contraction due to abrupt policy changes in the recent years. But the current recession facing the global economy is a new landmark in the chronicles of the civilized world as major economies struggle to recover from the grasp of COVID-induced crisis. Government is resorting to get the economy back on track through a series of policy changes. Expansionary fiscal policy was implemented by tax cuts, increased government spending, and introduction of stimulus packages. These policies are intended to increase aggregate demand while contributing to deficits, which already is a huge concern for the government. But once the economy has recovered from the recession and back on its wheel, increase in tax can, to an extent, lessen the burden of budget deficit. These policies can be employed to recover from recession. Fiscal policy is an effective strategy for the government to counterbalance the natural depression in spending and economic activity that takes place during a recession. As business conditions deteriorate, consumers and businesses cut back on spending and investments amid the COVID crisis. This cutback causes the businesses to deteriorate further, setting off a cycle from which it can be difficult to escape. The fear of crowding out exists when government spending affects the private sector, as it increases interest rates. But in the time where private sector struggles to thrive, capital for expansion is a secondary, which can be achieved by counterbalancing with expansionary monetary policies. Monetary policy enacted by the Reserve Bank of India manipulates the money supply in the economy. The money supply influences interest rates and inflation, both of which are a major determinant of employment, cost of debt, and consumption levels. Expansionary monetary policy involves Reserve Bank of India buying treasury notes, decreasing interest rates on loan banks, or reducing the reserve requirement. All of these actions increase the money supply and lead to lower interest rates. This creates incentive for the banks to loan and businesses to borrow. Debt-funded business expansion can positively affect the consumer spending and investment through employment, thereby increasing aggregate demand. Expansionary monetary policy also typically makes consumption more attractive relative to saving. Exports benefit from inflation as their products become relatively cheaper for consumers in the other economies. Indian economy's revival can be made possible by boosting aggregate demand with these policies. Thank you.